your time.
My oldest son that I never would have thought that he would leave before me. This kind of way, how they just got him and just throwed him in a hole like he wasn't nobody, like he wasn't important. They just did what they wanted to do with him, and that wasn't right. I couldn't get no answers from nobody. Me and my family deserve better than that. We had to buy him back from the state. In order to do anything, to get a death certificate, we had to spend money, and that's not right. Should nobody have to go through this as a mother? Nobody.
They shouldn't have.
No.
Had to be thrown away like this.
Just throw my son away. You a mother when you want to know about your son.
Thank you, Miss Mary. I can't even imagine how emotional this is. We thank you to Jonathan Schutz for helping get you some of the answers. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Gretchen Henkins. My son's name is Jonathan Henkins. He left my house May the 20th, Friday evening the 22, and he was found dead 23rd of 22, and I didn't know it for a year and 7 months. It's like they just threw him out like trash, just like they did the others. They did a fingerprint, and they found out who he was, and they still did not contact me. A reporter from New York City came down from New York, not here, and showed me information where they had buried him, and it had my address on there, so I know they knew how to get a hold of me.
My Lord. And you were talking about Jonathan's daughter.
Yes, and he has a daughter. She's 17 now. And, well, I can't get a death certificate or anything right now. I have to wait. Don't understand why. They need to give me one as soon as he was dead, and they should have brought it to my house.
How much are they saying?
$250 for the death certificate. It's ridiculous. It's uncalled for.
My heart goes out to all the ladies that's here today, and I know how it feels to find out that your son was thrown away in the ground, didn't contact you, didn't care about you, and what's so killing on my part, JPD did it, and I still couldn't get anything. I had to pay $250 before I could even go down there and get registered to get a death certificate. Before they could even call Val Records. They had to call Val Records that day or the next day, and I had to go down there and get his death certificate. I couldn't even get nothing until I gave them $250.
On a prior occasion here, you said you had 5 families that you were representing. Are they still, the other 2 still a part of?
Yes, they're verifying. Thanks to the good work of Jonathan Schutz, they're getting verified. We don't want to come before they're verified, but they have more likely than not that their loved ones are there, but we want to verify it.
Then I put a missing report in on mine and gave them the information again.
When you about to put a civil alert out too?
I put a civil alert, asked them to put a civil alert out. They made like they were going to do it. They still didn't do it. All they had to do was put him up on the television. Somebody would have recognized him.
Yes. Yeah. Google the name, something. I put his name on Google, and it came out the pan, the sister, the siblings, everything. So it did.
Well, my son was actually on the TV on the missing person, and they still didn't contact me.
And all they had to do was what Jonathan did, go verify data.
That's amazing. He's in New York.
Yeah.
Somebody
But-
all the way from New York, and these
But-
so-called JPD workers don't do too much work, apparently, because they're not doing no job whatsoever, no investigating, no nothing.
It was a scene straight out of a horror movie. 215 bodies discovered in unmarked graves behind a state jail in Jackson, Mississippi. Families of the deceased were left in the dark about the fate of their loved ones, buried in what is known as the Pauper's Field behind the Hinds County Penal Farm. The truth of this travesty and utter disregard for human life is slowly unraveling, but the details that have emerged so far are bone-chilling. The victims' graves were marked only by a number and a metal rod dug by inmates. The burials themselves were likely carried out by those same inmates. And as if that wasn't disturbing enough, one activist who dared to venture to the burial ground described a morbid scene. Buzzards circling overhead, drawn to the putrid stench emanating from the shallow graves. But it wasn't just negligence or lack of respect shown towards these individuals. There was something much darker at play here. One woman's relentless search for her missing son uncovered the truth. A Jackson police car had killed him while crossing a nearby highway. Despite having his identification on him, the police failed to notify his family or claim his body for months. They only brought this shocking revelation to light thanks to Betterston Wade's determination. And now she must grapple with the fact that her son's final resting place was in this desolate Pauper's Field, among countless others who met a similar fate. It's a crime story that will leave you reeling with disbelief and anger at such blatant disregard for human dignity. But this disturbing pattern went even further back. In December, news outlets reported on the death of Jonathan David Henkins, who had been missing since June of the previous year. His body was discovered just days after he went missing, in a hotel room in Jackson. The cause of death? An overdose. It seemed like just another sad statistic, but the truth was much more sinister. As the investigation continued, it became clear that these three were not the only victims. In fact, there could be countless more, all buried without proper identification or notification to their families. And as questions began to pile up about how this horrific practice went unnoticed for so long, one thing became clear. Someone wasn't doing their job. Gretchen Henkins knows this pain all too well. For over a year, she begged for any information about her son's whereabouts from the sheriff's office. Each time, she was met with silence and told they had no new leads. It wasn't until news of the county Pauper's Field broke that she finally learned what had happened to her son. But there are still so many unanswered questions. Who are the other victims? How long has this been going on? And why isn't there more outrage from the public and the authorities? One thing is for sure. This story is far from over. As more details emerge, it's clear that there needs to be a thorough investigation into this heinous crime. Because every person buried in that Pauper's Field deserves justice, and their families deserve closure. As the news of the tragedy broke, social media was flooded with heartbreaking accounts and reactions from devastated individuals, mainly workers and young people. One video on TikTok went viral and garnered thousands of comments, with many expressing their lack of shock at the events, citing a broken system that values profits over human life. Others questioned why this wasn't receiving more national attention and expressed outrage at the actions of our government. This public outcry reflects the current state of society, where such disregard for human life has become expected. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which has claimed millions of lives due to profit-driven decisions by both political parties and state institutions, has laid bare the true priorities of those in power. The victims in this tragic story were also dealing with addiction, a crisis that affects hundreds of thousands of individuals every day. Despite being well known to law enforcement and having spent time behind bars, they were unable to receive the necessary resources for help. Unfortunately, their stories are not unique. They represent the harsh reality faced by millions of workers and their families throughout the U.S. Behind the shocking headlines is a deeper issue. one that stems from a society plagued by violence and indifference. This is just one snapshot of what life looks like in America in 2024.
So you're telling me 251 plus dead bodies were discovered behind a fucking prison in Jackson, Mississippi, and everyone's talking about Miami aliens? As much as we have been standing for every other country, which isn't wrong, we need to focus on just one state here in America right now. And if it wasn't sinister enough that these dead bodies were found behind a prison in Jackson, Mississippi, which is a sundown town, by the way, these dead bodies are not prisoners. Not only are these dead bodies not of Jackson State Facility prisoners, the prisoners in this Jackson, Mississippi prison were the people who buried them. So not only are these people in jail, but they were made to dig mass graves for dead bodies for people they did not know as part of their fucking sentence. Amongst these bodies, the amount of Caucasian bodies to what they have already found to be people of color, black people, is off. Okay? And the thing that I need people to understand is this is a huge racial thing. I don't care what nobody says. And this isn't a conspiracy. Apparently, it's going on and on and on and unraveling to the point where there is have said to be a cop that actually killed someone and took him to that body to that prison and made prisoners bury that body in a mass grave. And this has just been going on. Mind you, I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. I have grandparents that own land in Jackson and Bolton, Mississippi. And I literally went on field trips with my grandparents to cotton gins, and we could never stay out past sundown. Jackson, Mississippi is a sundown town whether people think they still exist or not. One thing I'm going to use my platform to call attention to is that them fucking good old boys knew exactly what they were doing by making other prisoners bury fucking people in a mass grave behind the prison. Because if I make you bury someone, you think you're gonna tell, or you're gonna be back there too.